Hello, QVS World Geography students. I wanted to take the opportunity today to talk to you about how we will move forward in Essential Unit 3. All of the information that I will be sharing with you today will introduce some of the important features of Week 3 of Essential Unit 3. So as you know, over the past couple weeks, we have been studying the geography of Latin America. In fact, in the first week, you took some time to come to understand the important countries that are in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, along with looking at some of the different countries that are located in that region. You also examined the physical features, climate, and vegetation. While last week we took a look at a handful of those countries, and in doing so, examined the geographic advantages and disadvantages. So, after learning about the climate and vegetation and the physical geography, you learned a little bit about some of the political issues that some countries face, and you were able to draw some conclusions about which of those countries have the greatest geographic advantage and which of those countries have the greatest geographic disadvantage. We're going to move further this week. It's the last week of the unit, and we will take a look at in week 3 a little bit of the history of the region, going back to the colonial period when the region was colonized by European countries, and then we'll work up toward the present day. While in the final unit summary activity, you'll look at the relationship of the United States and many of the Latin American states. So let's go to the course page. Let me show you what you need to do this week in order to be successful. Okay, so here we are on the course page. I'm going to scroll down. I want to take you to the tab for Essential Unit 3. So go ahead and open that. And as I said, you should have by this point in time completed week 1 and week 2 activities. The focus right now will be these activities in week 3 and the assessment area for the unit. Because I'd like for you to set a goal to complete the unit by the end of this week. So the first activity that you're going to look at is the history of Latin America. So if we go ahead and open this gift of knowledge or this SCORM package, the first item that you will be taken to is a map. And in doing so, make sure you study the map carefully because there are some questions on the next slide about the map. But I put this map as the main feature for this activity because then you really come to understand the Spanish and Portuguese influence in Latin America today. So after Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492, that set forth a wave of future European explorations, and as Europeans explored the Western Hemisphere, they also came to colonize. One of the greatest advantages that Europeans had were animal-borne diseases that they had grown immune to. But when introduced to the Native American populations in the Americas, they were very devastating, namely smallpox. So as a result of the Columbian Exchange and these diseases that were brought to the New World, many of the Native Americans had died, and it left much of the land to be conquered by the European powers. So from this map, you can see that predominantly North and South America was colonized by the Spanish. So if you take a look at the key over here, you'll see that the Spanish controlled a significant amount of land in the early colonial period in the New World. The Portuguese also colonized Brazil. Now, the difference between Portuguese colonization and Spanish colonization, in 1494, there was a treaty signed between those two countries called the Treaty of Tordesillas, and that was a line of demarcation that essentially was drawn down the map that pretty much stated that anything to the east of that line would be open for Portuguese colonization, while anything west of that line would be open for Spanish colonization. So considering that agreement that was made, you can then have a strong understanding as to how and why the Americas were colonized in the way in which they were. Yet the Spanish and the Portuguese were not the only European states that claimed territories. You could see that the British, the Dutch, and the French also had smaller land holdings in what is today Latin America. So as you work through this activity, and you can see that there are 11 pages in total, as you work through this activity, you'll learn a little bit about Latin America under Spanish control. Okay, so that's the first week that the first activity that you're going to do this week with that history of Latin America. Then in the next activity, you're going to have an option between two films. You're going to either watch a documentary called The Great Inca Rebellion, or you will watch a documentary called Guns, Germs, and Steel. Both of them are about the same amount of time in length, and they both cover a similar topic, and that is Spanish conquest of the Inca. Now, the Inca were a Native American group who inhabited the Andes region of South America. So if I take you back up to the map, the Inca had a large land empire along the Andes Mountains, which are along that western border of present-day South America. And the film analysis sheet for this activity can be found under the resource section. So go ahead and open this film analysis worksheet. And then when you go back down to this activity, if you open this activity up, you'll see that there are two different videos embedded within the activity. You pick one of them to watch. You do not have to watch both of them. Of course, you can if you like, but after you watch the video, then go ahead and complete the film analysis worksheet, upload it here, and then move on to the next activity. So going back to the course page, then you can see what we're going to look at next is Latin American independence. So in the late 1700s, after the American colonies gained independence from Great Britain, there were many other revolutions that followed, and a large number of those revolutions took place in the Latin American states. So in this activity right here called Latin American independence, you are going to learn about all of the independence movements that occurred in the Latin American states in the early 1800s. There's a little bit of a reading that you will do, and then when we get to the end of the activity, there's a quiz for you to take. Okay, so make sure that you answer all of the questions, even the short answer question here at the end of the activity. So you can take a look at it ahead of time so that you know what you're going to be listening out for as you're reading and watching the video. It says describe the independent movements in each of the following. So I want to hear what independence was like for Mexico, for Haiti, and the other South American states. And then of the three regions, which movement for independence was the most revolutionary? So it's really good that you look at this question ahead of time. So as you're working through these 6 pages of this activity, you really kind of watch out for the answers to those questions. Okay, so that is the activity on Latin American independence. Following on, after these Latin American states gained independence from the European countries, they were forged with the task to build nations. And this doesn't ever come very easy. So in the next activity, you're going to learn about all of the challenges that these Latin American states faced as they built new states in the 1800s and even in the 1900s. What you're going to see was very common among most of the Latin American states is authoritarian style leaders came to power and began to abuse the rights of the people. So in that prior activity, when I asked you which was the most revolutionary, you're going to see that many of the Latin American states within the context of this activity had great challenges in setting up democratic states. And then finally, the last two activities for the week, the current event. So if you go ahead and open up this activity, you have a few choices. So here are 5 different videos all together. Note that you only have to pick one of them. And in choosing one of the current event topics, go back up to the resource section. And in the resource section, you can find the current event journal worksheet here. So go ahead and report on the topic that you chose for the current event for this unit. And then finally, we get to the Geography Now activity. The regional focus is South America this time. You should be familiar with this activity. We did this in with North America, with the United States and Canada. And in this activity, you're going to, again, go back up to the resource section, open the Geography Now worksheet. If I scroll back down to the task and open this activity up, you can read a little bit about the geography of South America. And then if you follow the directions here, you have to pick any of these videos to report on as the focus for the Geography Now series, okay? Now be mindful of the fact that it says for any 2 of the countries. So you have lots of choices from Argentina all the way through to Peru. You have to do the worksheet for at least 2 of those countries. Okay, so please be sure to follow the directions and upload 2 of them. So I want you to kind of explore 2 of the countries that are presented there. And then finally, under the assessment week, there is the unit summary activity. It's similar to the unit summary activity in Unit 2, but it's not exactly the same. You're not going to necessarily be going to CIA World Factbook and collecting lots of data. But in this activity, there is a central question. And after you open up the activity, you will see the central question here. It says, how has geographic proximity to the United States impacted economic development in Latin America? So the United States is a very powerful nation. Latin American states depend on the United States largely for trade and other aspects of their economy in terms of development. You are to pick any one of the following countries. So follow the directions. It says choose one of the following countries: Cuba, Nicaragua, Bolivia, Guatemala, Venezuela. And then it says, then watch at least one or all of the short documentaries. So there's a series of documentaries here. Examine and collect information on the following features of the chosen country. So you're going to describe to me the physical geography of the country you chose, the political geography, and the economic geography. So to do that, you probably will want to use CIA World Factbook, Nation Master, or Freedom House. And then after collecting the information, I want you to use that information to answer this question. To what extent is the level of development in the chosen Latin American country a result of geographic factors or U.S. intervention in the 20th century? You can choose the platform that you will use to present the information. You can use a PowerPoint. You can create a Weebly or a Prezi if you want. You can even just use a Word document and gather all of this information, the maps and all of that data, and just present it in a Word document. And I would be satisfied with that as long as you answer the question, how has geographic proximity to the United States impacted economic development in Latin America? Then that is the last activity for the unit. Make sure that you upload it here And like I said at the beginning, make sure that you take every effort or make every effort to finish these activities by the end of the week. Have a good day.